Look what a lot of PTs are doing to get a lot of likes on Instagram right now. They're showing exercise videos. That's showing a lot of the how. That'll get a lot of buzz, but do you think people follow through on that? Do you think my lack of access to exercise videos is the reason my shoulder hurts? Dude, we've never had more access to exercise videos. Then how are the same rates of people hurt or losing function? They need a guide. They don't need the answers. They need the tutor. Then stop selling answers, sell guidance. Dave, how's it going, man?
Morning, feeling great.
I got several DMs about Hawk Tua. They were like, "Hey, several people said we didn't think you could make the Hawk Tua girl make sense, but I actually got something out of that." So that was kind of fun.
What else was some of the feedback? I didn't get any directly about that, but anything specific?
Yeah, several people, a couple of people had reached out to me privately and said, not about specifically the guy that I was talking about on Tuesday, the guy who like reached out and was like just weirdly aggressive and like pushing me into like working for free for his online $350 ticket conference. But people had reached out and said, yeah, that's happened to me before. In a profession with 70% females, last time I checked, too, that's just not cool to like be like, hey, we need you, and it's this dangling. It's this dangling, do it for the exposure, do it for, this is what you want to be doing. So, push back. I did an online conference in 2020, maybe 2021, when like COVID was going on. And we just said, let's try one. So we helped out a bunch of oncology PTs, but like our goal was to make sure that they could make money off of it too. We didn't make a whole ton of money, but we were like, the purpose was like, it was a beta test. It was like, do we want to be in this business? As it turned out, I did not want to be in that business. Like I wanted to be a presenter. I didn't want to be a conference organizer, or I didn't want to be a conference organizer on my own. But it was a good test anyway.
I mean, I don't think you specifically run ads for the show, right, on your channel, but I benefit from exposure because you have a massive show, but you don't pay me. I'm not saying like, hey, pay Tony and I so we, wake up a little bit earlier or spend our time on your show or this show or whatever in the morning. So it's like,
well, that was the thing too, because I was like, hey man, maybe lead with your hi, I'm whatever his name was, Scott or Mike or whatever it was. Like, I'm doing this thing from, so he was just some random dude. Like, to me, he might be some dude who's got a big organization. So that's why I asked, like, do you have a website? Like, can you give me some context? And he's like, his response was like, I don't know, Mr. Question Asker. And I'm like, do you know who I am? That's kind of my thing. I ask questions. Like I ask a lot of questions, and you're asking me to like how to teach people how to network and market digitally. That would be my first suggestion. Ask a lot of questions, get a lot of context and understanding, and ask yourself, one thing I left out was like, how does this interaction with this person who's asking you to like partner with them, how does the interaction with them make you feel? Do they feel icky? I don't know what the scientific term for icky is, but if there's an ickiness, like, don't do it. It's never going to flip. It's probably not going to flip the other way to be like, this was fun. No, if it starts icky, most likely it's going to stay icky and ride icky.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that we wanted to kick off today is I always like asking, this is a good question to ask people, which is like, hey, what books? I like to ask this question, not what books do you like or what books do you read? Because I think that question sort of locks me up and locks people up. I like asking the question, what books have you read twice? That's a big nod, right? You've read a book, but also read the book twice. Or what books do you give as gifts? Or what books do you suggest other people read? We'll go specifically, I guess, maybe about business, business, marketing, communications. What comes to mind for you?
For me, the best one for me and for private practice owners that are either speaking to patients or even getting buy-in from your team members is a book from Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. And he's a previous FBI hostage negotiator. And long story short, like, it's an amazing book. I even think you should get the audiobook on Audible because you can hear his change in tonality. One example is that he says, you got to put on your, what does he call it?
Late night radio DJ.
Late night radio DJ voice. And I don't know if this sounds, I don't have a great microphone compared to Jimmy, but this, maybe this, changing tonality. Yeah. It is such a game changer. And listen, real quick, at the end of the day, physical therapists, practice owners, like, we're trying to help more patients conservatively, right? So like we're not selling anything that's got like side effects or anything bad, right? So I think we're doing all of our communities a great service by learning how to best communicate our message, our value proposition, all that. And this book does that. This book, and we can get into some of the specifics of it. I don't know. Have you read it?
Oh, I've read it several times. It would be number one. And why did you read it? Because someone suggested it? Do you remember?
I can't recall. I don't know.
I read it years ago because I was changing jobs and I was going to go into a salary negotiation. And I said, I don't really know how to do that. Like, it's sort of like they throw out a number, so then you throw out a number like 5% higher, and then you meet in the middle. And quite literally, the book is called Never Split the Difference, Negotiate as if your life depends on it. So I read it as like, how do I negotiate? And I don't want to say that the book isn't about negotiation, but it's more about communication, because negotiating is two human beings talking about a thing, finding not the middle ground, not just, well, we're 10 short, so why don't you drop 5 and I'll go up 5. And his whole premise for that is, as you mentioned, he was the lead FBI hostage negotiator. And he's like, well, what am I going to do? Go to work one day and you got 10 hostages, and I say, all right, why don't you kill 5? I'll keep 5, and then we'll call it a day. He's like, no,
it can't compromise.
You can't compromise. Like, I couldn't let those people have the $10 million and the helicopter on the roof and the plane to Bora Bora. I couldn't do that. So he's like, what do we do then? Do we just, and he went through sort of the history. And like, number one, I think it's a brilliantly written book. I agree with you on the Audible, because the dude's just got a really cool, I mean, obviously his whole thing, or a lot of his thing, is pace, tone, excited. He's trying to connect with, he's like, I have to connect with this person who is having the most stressful day of their life, right? They thought they'd get in and out of the bank maybe with the money, but now they're surrounded by FBI agents. They know this, logically, this is not going to end well. I have to connect with this person who I've never met, and I've got to make them know me, like me, trust me. And then how do I do that? And ironically, he's like, it's not about what I say, it's about how I'm saying things to get what I need out of them. So I thought a lot of those lessons were fantastic for healthcare providers. The book is not about negotiation. I don't know if I made this up or if it's actually in the book. Because I remember because it's one of the few books I have like Post-it notes and like things tag. I'm like, oh, I got to learn how to do that well. And the quote that I came up with from the book, what I thought it was from him, and I even asked ChatGPT, is this from him? And it said no, is every conversation is a negotiation for information. You're either trying to get someone to know something, you're trying to get information from someone. And that was, if you boiled everything down for me, that one line that also kind of rhymed, so it must be true. Every conversation is a negotiation for information. You're either trying to get someone to know something, do something, you're trying to find something out. And he's like, in your personal life, professional life, bank robbers, strangers, that's sort of it. So that for me was valuable. What were the tricks, or not the tricks, but the tactics?
That's what I want to get into. That's what I want to get into. So the biggest thing from his point of view, like you said, you can't compromise with someone who has taken people hostage. They're robbing a bank. They are in another country, and they've abducted like an American or something. And so now the FBI America has to come in and try to extract their citizen, right, and support their citizen or citizens abroad, whatever. From his point of view, he asks questions and he paces the interactions so that whatever happens, it's that person's decision. Mm-hmm. It's not, you can't force them. And that's why it's beautiful for physical therapy conversations, especially cash-based physical therapy. And we'll get into it. Like, for example, how about you ask me a question, like anything that would cause, like I need to now put in effort or time or money or whatever. Like, you need something from me, like anything.
Am I a patient or am I a clinician?
Anything, either way.
So how long do I come see you? Like, I don't understand. Like, how often am I gonna have to come see you for how long to like get better until I'm good again?
So all right, let me phrase it. So how about you're a patient that hears that, we charge like $250 per visit.
Okay. So Dave, I have like really good insurance, and like I looked and it's like $60 a visit at this place over here. I like you. I've seen you once. Like I've heard great things. Like, why am I going to pay $250 a visit? Like, why?
Sure. Yeah, I get that. So what it sounds like is you're looking for like a discount or a lower dollar amount.
Yeah, 60 and 200 is it's big. It's big, for me.
Sure. I hear you. I understand. How am I supposed to do that?
What do you mean?
Like we have this overhead. We want to keep our competitive physical therapists, and I'm just not sure how we're supposed to, discount our services, even if, someone might not be able to afford it. I get it. I'm just not sure how I'm supposed to do it.
Well, is it different? Like, is the 60, am I getting more out of, your clinician than I am out of the clinician down the street for the $60 copay? What's the difference?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you're the judge and jury. We believe so. Yes, we believe so. It's not that different between choosing Airbnb versus a hotel where there's a lot more amenities. There's breakfast provided. There's a pool and a gym, and it's next to the conference hall that you're going to, as opposed to the Airbnb that's you got to get in an Uber and it's further away from the conference center. So it really just depends on like your style, your goals, your, how you like to, navigate your everyday life.
All right. So what were the tactics that you were using there from Chris Voss? What were the things that you were doing?
So, and by the way, like this maybe is a little rusty as we get going today, I think. And we said maybe we do some sales role play, and then also we would do the book thing. And now we're kind of tying it together. So this is great. The question of how am I supposed to do that from the book, from Never Split the Difference, the hostage, the criminal or whoever would say, like you said, I need $5 million. I need a helicopter. I need, this bag of money. And Chris Voss would say, how am I supposed to do that? In that like low DJ, late night radio DJ voice, changing tonality. But the how am I supposed to do that is one way where you can get the other side to lower their expectations, meaning like their resistance. Like, I don't know how I can provide our physical therapy for $60 a visit.
Right.
And so then you potentially will close the gap between the 60 and the 250, and either the 60 kind of goes up or the 250 value kind of comes down, and we're closing the gap. So then you're going to fill in the space. You're going to fill in the how am I supposed to do that? Made me very uncomfortable. The patient will be stunned but engaged. Love that. Yes, I don't know LinkedIn user. I'm not sure who that is. So
what it does is, I should reread Voss's book again. I read it twice. But what he did there is, like, I envisioned, and I don't think he said this in the book, but I envisioned a lot of either negotiations, or now I envision conversations this way. It's almost like we're throwing a tennis ball back and forth, right? So you say, like, why, patient says, you're $200 and down the street is 60. And your response is like, what I might have said, or one of the questions I might have asked first is, do you think, like, help me understand, do you think that we're the same? Like, if you think we're the same, then you shouldn't pay $200. So it's a question and it's open-ended. Do you think that we're providing the same thing as the other place, or have you looked into them? Again, it tosses the tennis ball back to the other person to say, well, no, I see that there is a difference. Then, well, how can I charge 60 when I'm providing more? So what it does is, it's not saying, what it doesn't do, and I think a reaction for clinic owners or business people or hostage negotiators would be, my costs are higher, man. And I'm in a big, really expensive neighborhood, and like, I have a doctoral degree and I got to pay my bills. It's like, hey man, those are you problems. But what is this thing we're trying to accomplish together? You obviously, and here's the other thing I was taught too. If we're still talking, we're negotiating. It doesn't have to be moving numbers back and forth. But if you're like, why are you 200 and the other guy is 60? If we're talking, you still want to be, there's still a door open for you to pick the person who's charging 200. They need to understand why it's better for them, or not. But that's what they're doing. They're seeking information to say, help me fill in this gap. Like you said, when I go to CSM, and I objectively look at the hotel that's attached to the conference and it's $100 more a night, I'm like, what? My animal brain goes, that's stupid. I'm going to get an Airbnb. And I've done that. And then I go, that sucks every morning when I wake up. I got to get up an hour early and I got to Uber. And when it's in Boston in February and I'm miserable, I'm like, I'd rather be right there in that hotel bed, nice and cushy and warm. And then all of a sudden the juice is worth the squeeze. So I think one of the things that he does, the other thing that you did was you kept, it seems like, it feels like, he calls this the accusation audit. And the first thing you did was, so it seems like price is the issue. And that's a technique called anchoring. It's like, I want to know what's the biggest hitch in the giddy up here? Is it price? Is it quality? Because if someone had said to you, I met with one of your clinicians and I found them not professional. And you'd be like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, it sounds as if that was not a good experience for you. Absolutely. So you're confirming. What you don't do is push them into a corner, Voss says, which is, oh, so you had a bad experience? That is drastically different than it sounds as if the quality of what you expected in terms of the clinician was not met. Like the expectation of reality didn't meet. So really you can see this is, I call it, I started naming things in the book too, funny things. Remember from Jurassic Park, how they describe how the raptors used to test the fence, the electrified fence? Yep. They never checked the same spot twice. They're just testing the perimeter. They're figuring how to get in. They're saying, what is the actual problem here? The first step to solving a problem is admitting you have one. The step before that is figuring out what the problem actually is. And for patients or customers, it's not always the same thing. So understanding, what are we actually negotiating over? Is it price or is it perceived value and expectation? Well, that clinic down the street is $60. You go to them, and sometimes their availability might be tough. It sounds as if you might value flexibility more than you did money. That's why you're paying more to get a black car. You're valuing flexibility and style more than you are a yellow cab. Those things both get you from point A to point B. And I push back and I go, but that's not what they value.
Right. Okay, so here's another example. Now, this whole Breakfast Club show, like this was your idea. I think you and I and Tony, we did like a video, like an episode or something. I forget, maybe it was live. I don't even remember. And I think then after that, you were like, hey, this should be like Breakfast Club PT, correct? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Let's assume that Jimmy McKay did not make up the idea for this show. Now, Tony's got Learn Medicare Billing. I have the Dave Kittle Show on YouTube, whatever. And I've known Jimmy now for, I don't know how long, 8 years or something, 7, 8 years, something like that online.
Yep.
Okay. If Tony and I, or if just I wanted to come on and say to Jimmy, like, hey, I have this idea for a show so I can get on Jimmy's show. I mean, your show has been downloaded over 5 million times, the biggest physiotherapy show in the world, I think. Now, I would want to, who wouldn't want to come on this show and be on your podcast, your platform, whatever? The example from the book would be, I can't just come to Jimmy McKay and say, hey, I want to start a new show on your platform and, pitch it to you. When I do that, I have lower leverage. I don't have, even with my experience of doing videos and whatever and all that, but I don't have the leverage. But here's how I could frame it differently. I cold message Jimmy, or I get on a Zoom call with him and Tony, and I say to Jimmy, hey, would it make sense to possibly have like a morning show? Like, I know you used to do a lot of radio. And so I'm asking Jimmy a question because I know his whole background with radio before physical therapy, but I don't want to ask, I don't want to pitch him where it's a no, like it's easy to say no. And that's in the book of, you want to ask you don't want to elicit, you're not trying to elicit a yes.
Right.
I want to elicit a no. And so if I say to Jimmy, hey, would it make sense to possibly consider a morning show, PT Breakfast Club, whatever we call it. And if you say, or in the book, I'm sorry, would it be a bad idea? Is it a bad idea, Jimmy?
Right, you want to flip it.
Is it a bad idea to consider a morning show on your platform?
And you said consider, not do. And that's different because that, right. So I'd be like, well, no, I mean, hey, I know what a morning show looks like. Or could look like, right? I have a general idea, but it might not be the same idea as you. It's like, no, that's not a bad idea. Like, what would that look like? You would get me to ask a question is what I think you're going for. Not shut it down. You haven't given me a whole pitch. You haven't locked me into making a yes or no decision. It's just one question closer to a thing.
Well, so like if I, and you and I, we've had a bunch of interactions over the years, but even if I cold message you or I get you on a Zoom call and I say, hey, do you want to start a morning show? It's kind of like, nah, like maybe I need more information, but that question makes it easier for you to say no, to shut me down.
The example I use is don't ask someone to get married before you ask them out on the first date. There's an order we do things. We do coffee, dinner, a weekend away, meet the parents, married. And we do a bunch of those things repeatedly. But if you ask to get married the first date, you're giving me it's either this or nothing. It's too much. I'm probably going to say no. It's too big of a leap.
Right. And so if I ask again, do you want to start a morning show? It's easier for you to say no, because it's just, you're like, oh, it's extra time. When do I have to schedule that? There's all this baggage that comes with the decision.
And I still don't know what I'm getting at that point. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's still like, well, okay, like, but it's too big of a leap.
Right. So in the book, you're trying to ask, like, Chris Voss frames it as, would it be a bad idea if?
Right.
And so as opposed to, do you want to start a breakfast club show in the morning? That puts a lot of like brain processing on you where you have to like, I don't know. It's that question makes it so much easier to say no. Instead, It's, hey, Jimmy, like, would it be a bad idea to consider a breakfast show in the morning?
Right.
And when I say, would it be a bad idea if, most people want to say no to most questions, right? You get cold message. I get cold message all the time. We default to no because we're like, we want to have our guard up, right?
Right. Yep.
Now when I say, would it be a bad idea if we considered a breakfast club show in the morning? Your default is still no.
Right.
So you said no, it's not a bad idea. That's what happens in your brain. So I'm asking you a question that is, because if you say yes, it is a bad idea, but most people are not going to retort to a yes as default to a question.
Right. Did you ever see the movie Inception?
Sure. Yep.
And the whole concept of that movie, spoiler alert, the whole concept of that is they can like get into your dreams and put ideas in your head, but what they and so they can make you do something like give away all your money, right? If you want to break up a company, you go into the CEO's dream, and you put the idea in their head. But what they found was it only really worked if they came up with the idea. You could plan an idea, but it wouldn't last. That was the idea. So I think a lot of these questions, would it be a bad idea if, or it sounds like, you're acting more like the Yoda and you're saying, I make suggestions, you make decisions. I'm going to walk you to the end of a diving board, but if I push you, I'm a used car salesman. And you might say yes just to get me away from you. But then the minute you go home, you're going to stop payment on that check and you're like, I'm out. Like it's like when the people walk up to you at the mall and they want to squirt like lotion on you. I'm not sure, or perfume, whatever. I'm always like, nope. So
now, but those people in the mall, they would have better outcomes. They would touch more people. They would probably sell more if they were holding the thing and saying, hey, would it be a bad idea to try this lotion?
Yeah.
Because you're going to say, no. And then, but when you realize you just said,
right.
No, it's not a bad idea, which means it is a good idea.
Do you know my default? They usually say, would you like to try this? Would you like to smell better? Would you like softer? Oh, no, they usually say, can I ask you a question? The one is, can I ask you a question? That's supposed to be like,
to say no, it default. So that's a bad question.
Right. But I would say you just did. And then I keep walking. I'm like, you just did. And have it because their pitch is the same every time. So he's also talking about, I think this is Voss, pattern interruption. Is pattern interruption Voss? Because that's what he talks about in terms of speed and tone. So you have the pitch of your voice. He's like, when he wants to, and this is how I read it, when he wants to like underline, italicize, and bold something, he slows down and he goes deeper. So he's like, because what he really understands is, and in the book, he talks about how he out negotiates like Harvard trained MBAs. And he's like, I'm just the guy I think he's from Long Island or something. He's like, I'm just a guy from the streets. Is he understood that there's a brain in the skull of the person across from him or on the phone with him. So he's understanding, like, you play baseball. When you're in the moment, your focus gets really narrow, right? When you're in the moment, your focus everything's going by at 100 miles an hour. You're trying to pay attention to a lot of information. He's trying to slow that person down because he doesn't want them to make a bad decision from his point, like kill a hostage or, run out of the bank with his guns drawn. He's like, that's a bad outcome too. He's trying, if you really want to look at this, he's trying to make the bank robber make the decision to surrender, right, and make him think it's his decision to surrender.
Right.
I can yell at you all day, right? We all had parents. My dad was a yeller. And he's like, I could just yell and scream at you. And then eventually it doesn't do anything. Like for me, it was probably good that my dad was like a big yelling fireman because he was used to yelling at work, right? So when he would yell at me in the beginning, it would work. And then after a while, like when I get interactions with people, I get really slow. I win interactions like with weird people on trolls online or whatever, because I slow it down. When you're giving me, 10 different kinds of smoke and heat and volume, slow it down. That's what Voss is really saying. He's like, slow it down. Don't rush them to say yes. It needs to be the inception moment. You want it to be their decision. So this is a negotiation with an employee. This is a negotiation with an employer. This is patient interactions is where I was like, oh my gosh, you could use these Jedi mind tricks for good. If you're saying, it sounds as if like the exercises that I'm giving you, they don't feel like they're working for you. You don't think you're getting anything out of them. It sounds as if those exercises I'm giving you, they're not working. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I want to be open to them, but I don't understand. What you're getting is I don't understand them. So you're telling me maybe we should review them because it's the understanding. You believe they could work, but you don't know if you're getting them right at home. Do I have that right? Yes. Got it. I understand what the problem we're actually trying to solve now. Now it's moving to let's take the next 15 minutes for education. Or I think I've been doing them perfectly. Those things. Okay, great. It sounds as if maybe you think different exercises would be better or a different treatment might be better. Do I have that right? Yeah. But if you don't give them the opportunity to open that door to go through it, they're just going to be pissed. Then you say patient's not compliant. They fell off the schedule, but really is your fault because it's your job to understand. That's where I get my mantra on LinkedIn is science isn't finished until it's understood. Just because you said it doesn't mean they understand it.
So going back to Jimmy as the fake patient. So you could circle back and say at the end of the conversation, I could say, Jimmy, you're right. Listen, the $250, it's expensive. This is a premium experience. This is different than the $60 copay physical therapy down the street. You know what? I don't want to talk bad about that place down the street. So what I will say is if they ask me, like, how is so-and-so, I will say the word decent. They're decent. And it may be neutral. It's like, I'm not saying that they're good or great. I mean, maybe they're good. Like if they're good, like I'll definitely say my colleague is good. Like I know that practice owner, I know that practice. I might say they're good or they're great or whatever. And sure, try them out. I never want to force someone. Good. I might even do like a takeaway. I might even, I might say, it sounds like you're calling around, you're in the information gathering phase. So it sounds like it might not even be a good time right now to get you to even consider penciling you in on our calendar. But if you were a little bit closer to making a decision, I might say, listen, Jimmy, we don't have any big contracts. We're not going to try to force you into some $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 package or anything like that. So if we sense that you were a little bit closer to a decision, the question could be, would it be a bad idea to schedule the evaluation? It's $250. There's no other package. There's no big, contract to sign. There's no fixed agreement or anything like that. And then if you say yes, then obviously we would schedule you. But if you say no, then it depends how much more it flows as to what are someone's, main objections? And what I found over the years is that it's not always like someone finding fault in us, or they don't think that our treatment will work. Because a lot of times people will call us and they'll say, oh, I saw all your Google reviews and testimonials and success stories on your website with, patients looking happy and all that. So we want to have a bunch of social proof online. So some people will still believe that stuff, but some people don't believe in themselves to actually carry through and have the personal accountability, whether it's to schedule appointments, whether it's to do the home exercise program, et cetera. So for any cash-based physical therapists out there, like, once I stopped taking these rejections and these no's personally, my phone calls and my team's phone calls became a lot better, and there was less pressure. And then when they are smoother, less pressure, as if like, Jimmy, like, I want to be respectful on this call, but I also want it to come across that we don't need you as a patient. And then what that does is that draws someone like Jimmy in, because they're like, oh, wow, they're charging out of pocket or out of network or whatever. And, but they also don't even need me as a patient. So it's the opposite of the forceful, salesy used car salesman. I'm kind of like, I can almost do like a takeaway and say, you know what, it sounds like you're still a little bit up in the air. And I know, today's Thursday and we just booked your evaluation on Monday at 3 p.m. But it sounds like you're a little uncertain, and I want to make sure that slot is available for someone who's really serious and motivated. So why don't we take it off the calendar? And now it's your job to convince me to put it back on the calendar. Or if you say, yeah, all right, okay, then you would have no-showed or canceled it last minute anyway.
Right. Well, you're going through, and I'll put this on the screen for the live stream people and for the people listening to the podcast. If you Google the letter B, the number 2, the letter C, B2C, business to consumer value pyramid, you'll get what we're looking at. And I think we should do an episode on this where I just sort of talk through this, because I use this with like companies or individuals that I work with. So what you're looking at is like, it's a pyramid. It's shaped up like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? PTs love that. They love Maslow and his hierarchy. And these are the 30, what they call the 30 elements of value. This is like, I try to explain, this is like the periodic table of values. This is all you can provide from business to consumer. This is it. If it's not on here, you can't do it. Now you can combine things together like hydrogen and oxygen and make water, but if it's not on here, you can't do it, right? So what you're trying to suss out is, this is a great exercise to find out about yourself, a self-assessment as a business or a service provider. What am I actually providing? That's number one. So what values? So like with Dave, Concierge Pain Relief in the city, you go to them, right? So that's like avoiding hassles. That's coming to me. That's simplification, right? So yeah, you're providing therapeutic benefit. That's in the emotional level here, a level 2 of the pyramid, but you're also on the functional level. You're reducing effort. I don't have to go anywhere, man. If there was a Wall Street guy who is willing to pay $250 a session, if you come to me in my office, that's worth not having to, schlep uptown or go wherever it is to get this guy. So what you do is you do a self-evaluation with this pyramid, with these values, and you ask yourself, what am I actually providing? Step 2, though, is also is what we're talking about today. Am I communicating that value? Because in your mind, Dave, you're like, we come to you, we've got fantastic therapists, we're going to get you better faster. But if you don't communicate that in some way, and you don't have to beat them over the head about it. Hey, the guy down the street, he's good. Say he's great. He's great. I like him. The thing is, to work with him, you're going to have to go to his location whenever you're seen. That some people like that. If that's what you want, that's good. We don't do that. We come to you. We're very flexible. So you talk about the values. In this situation, when you brought up talking about the guy down the street or the girl across the street, I always say, listen, if you were talking to a young lady in a bar, would you talk about the other guy she might be talking to or she has a date with next Saturday? Or would you talk about yourself? Or the third option, talk about her. Talk about her. Tell me what you value. What do you expect to get out of this? What's the goal look like? What's the end of the rainbow look like when you're done with PT? How will you know it's been successful? Tell me what they're going to tell you values. I call it a ping pong or a ricochet question. Don't say, what are your values in a physical therapist? It's going to lock them up. They're like, I don't know, but good, smart, cheap. Help me understand what a good session looks like. Well, I really want to understand everything. Oh, so you value a really clear communicator in your session. So this value pyramid, because just because you're a PT doesn't mean you and the guy across the street provide the same thing. We are good that we're different because there's a lot of people who value different things. There's a reason the $60 copay clinic, and I'm not knocking those things again, not knocking them, but saying like you're providing a different value for a different cost point. And there are actually more people who are probably looking for that $60 copay treatment than there are looking for the $200 experience, right? Because you're providing more. So I think, to me, I do this all the time. I have this. That's why I have this picture like ready at the click of a button, is because I do it all the time. I'm always assessing, what does my podcast provide? And some of the things on my list: informing, making it easy, fun and entertainment. Why do I think my podcast has lasted almost a decade, man? Next year is going to be a decade, which is weird. I think I approach it from the other side, as most PTs are trying to be radio DJs. I was a radio DJ trying to be a PT. I couldn't not make it like a radio show. So it's a spoonful of sugar, but I didn't have to force that. If that isn't your vibe and you forced it, the audience would know, and they'd be like, this is shtick. I can't do it. So doing a self-assessment of what you actually provide is step one. 2 is, are you and how do you communicate those things? And then 3 is when you can do it live with Chris Voss's skills. That's the gold, man, because now you're armed. Voss knew, I'm not giving you the $5 million in the helicopter to Bora Bora. It's not happening. Help me understand how you think we're getting out of this. Help me understand how we are getting out of this. I just made your problem our problem. I want to help you get out of here. But listen, man, my boss is not going to let me do it. It's not going to happen. Help me understand how I'm able to do that. Do you think I'll be able to do that on the news? I'm able to hand a bank robber a helicopter? Well, I guess not. It's a question. The questions are terribly, terribly powerful. We underestimate them.
It's way better than just saying, no, we're not going to get you a bag of money and a helicopter and all that. Or you can't say it's not going to happen. And then the hostage situation, like all the hostages are just going to get shot, right. Like it's going to be terrible. And then in a less stressful environment with physical therapy phone calls with prospective patients on the front end, I like what you said about the whole bar. You're not going to talk about the other guys. You're not going to talk. And even physical therapists, practice owners fall in this trap all the time. Talking about themselves. That's so easy. Oh, I have this certification, that certification. We do one-on-one home visits. Like some of the stuff you need them to realize, like,
okay, wait. Let me stop you right there. All right. We do one-on-one home visits is about me. It's about Dave, because that's what Dave does.
Correct.
They have a brick and mortar. You have to go to them, is talking about the competition. So that's, to me, that's level 1 bad. That's the worst thing you can do, is talk about the other guys. Don't do it. Don't even bring them up. Right. And if you do, I say you say that they're great. They're great. But
no,
what do you,
I disagree.
They're great, but what do you value? So here's what I mean. Talking about the other guys, don't do it. And if you do, glowingly, because you're brushing the dirt off your shoulder. Talking about yourself, still bad, but not as bad as talking about the other guys, in my opinion. We do one-on-one home visits. Sounds as if you're transmitting a value, but that's you talking about you. What you could say is talk about the patient, talk about them, which is,
no, of course,
which is it comes to you. I would love, talk about the value, the benefit. This is where have I ever talked to you about the features versus benefits? Like, nobody ever bragged in college about having friends with features. You brag about friends with benefits, what you get out of it, right? So talk about what you get out of it. You value flexibility, and you value high quality, and you value speed of getting back together. You can get better with that guy down the street. You will. But you value, let me understand, I think I'm hearing is you value speed and flexibility more than you do $60. Do I have that right? Well, yeah. Then help me understand why you'd go there. and then shut up. Like silent questions are powerful. Silence is even more powerful because we're big dumb animals and we hate silence. Trust me, as a guy who hates silence. But once I realized I could use it as a space to let them fill, it got really awesome. I even do it physically. See what I just did? I backed up from the camera. Like,
I like it.
People will talk about shtick too. If I'm interviewing someone, I'm giving away all the secrets today, Dave. If I'm interviewing someone and I can tell, so most of the time I warm them up. I get them going before I ever hit record. You can do it too as a clinician. It's that meeting them in the waiting room and walking them back. How was your weekend? Ask them all the stupid questions you're never going to actually air. I'm going to edit out all the stuff I talk in the bullshit questions in the beginning.
Unless it's live like this.
Unless it's live, right? But even if it is, you can tell when it really starts. You're warming them up. That's quite literal. You have to do this for a little while, rub the hands together to get warm. So, but what I'll do is, here's another trick too, is if I think you've got more, but you're a little tight or a little cold, especially because my podcast was recorded over a beer, I'll start drinking.
So that allows some pause and some space.
I'm giving you a visual cue. I'm not going to fill this space. And I'm nodding. I'm sort of like, go on. Or if I don't have a drink, and not all the time, I'm not drinking 24/7. A lot of times I'll do that physical space. I'll lean back and I'll do like a 15 to 20 degree head tilt. It's hard to be quiet, especially as a student.
People want to fill in that space, man.
They do. And that's why when you see a really skilled clinician versus a student, and not all students, but myself as a student, I was this, man. I was diarrhea of the mouth because I was like thinking 10 steps ahead. I was thinking about 45 things. I needed to keep talking. And you watch a really skilled. There was this guy, Quang. I got to look him up. He was at one of my rotations. And this dude just looked like Bruce Lee on CBD. Just chill, man. And always leaning back, and nothing was ever rushed. And people would wait 6 weeks to see him. They were like, no, I'm good. I'll wait to see him. And he was always just super chill, laid back, never used 5 words when 3 would do. It's all those, remember that was the scene from Ocean's 11 with Brad Pitt talking to Matt Damon. And he's like, they need to like you, then forget you a minute later. If you don't know the answer, where do you look? Where do you put your hands? He's like, don't use 5 words when 3 will do. That one stuck with me. Don't. You look more powerful when you use 5 words. I can out talk most people, and I'm doing it now. You notice what Voss says, slow it down. It's like a bold underline and italics when you slow it down. Because he also says that, speed it up and slow it down on purpose. That's what you highlight.
As we're talking about like front end phone calls, cash-based physical therapy, overcoming objections, whatever, like the in-network clinics, the ones that just take every single insurance, like they don't have to do this. They just say they do what every other healthcare practice does. I don't know how it is with you, Jimmy, but like when I've called my dermatologist, when I've called a primary care physician, whatever, they literally will ask like, what's your insurance? Like before even saying hello and good morning and who is this calling? What's your name? That's like, what's your ring size? It's like, dude, I don't even know if you can help me. And you're asking for my ring size. Like, bro, you're skipping a few. I'm not getting married to you. Hang on a second. Are you the right type of provider? Like, hang on a second. Yeah. And Jerry Durham talks about this too. And I agree, which is like, flip that phone call. Hey, hang on a second. Before we get to insurance, I want to make sure we're right for you. To your point of disarming of trying to get to a no, not a yes, which Get to the Yes was a big book back in the day for sales. And now people have sort of flipped it, which is, hang on a second, let's slow it down a little bit. Why don't you tell me about you? You just doing that, you are going to differentiate yourself from 90% of the people out there. Hang on a second, let me find out about you. That's not just, you can hear me on the keyboard putting in your name, your social security number, and your insurance. You're making this experience about them. And you're actually trying to, not just fake, you're trying to get to the no. Because Dave, how much does it cost when you get someone booked and they no-show or they keep canceling? I'd rather never get that person on my schedule. Do you agree with that? I do agree with that. And that's why when we have our initial prospective patient phone calls, sometimes they're 15, 20, 30 minutes. And when I first started my practice, sometimes they were even longer than that because it was building an immense amount of rapport and goodwill up front to make sure that by the end of the phone call, if they're going to move forward, they're going to be paying out of pocket. I need their enthusiasm, their excitement. I need them to basically say, or they're demonstrating with their excitement, that it's a hell yes, that there's no way that they're going to cancel or no show that first visit. Then, of course, my therapist or whoever, one of our therapists goes, does the visit. That's all figured out. I know my therapists are great. They're going to communicate. They're going to have the whole hour with them. Most people are going to be impressed with that. So it's almost like I just need to get them to experience that first visit. And by the way, I don't want this to sound too complex. So like, as we're saying, the example you said about the bar, and, you could talk about the other competition, the other guys, or you could talk about yourself, or you could talk about the person right there in front of you.
Do that.
When we're doing the initial phone calls with someone, like, we will ask very simple questions like, so Jimmy, you said you found us online. I'm sure we're not the only ones that you're calling. You're calling around. You said you've had chronic low back pain for 10 months. It's July 11th. Why today? Like, why today? Why go on Google? Why start calling around? Why inquire? Spend the time. It sounds like you're busy. You're a busy professional. Why today?
Yeah, I was looking to go on vacation. Give me talking about what the future I want to be able to do, or it got so bad I can't go to work, or I want to be able to go to Europe or whatever and enjoy it.
Yes. Now, like, that's like shooting fish in a barrel when they say something like that. Like, they're going to be going to Europe in 6 weeks. Oh, right. Now everything that we say, it's less about, we do manual therapy, we do a 60-minute visit, whatever. I'll say, we do maybe hands-on manual therapy more often in the beginning of a plan of care, and then less as.
Wait. Do you even talk about? See, I would say don't talk about the how. I've helped people similarly to you with this. I mean, I need to see you in person to figure out exactly what's going on. Right. But I think that's within the scope. I think that's possible.
Exactly. We don't want to talk about that much. We want anything that they ask or anything that we explain after they just said, in 6 weeks, I am going to be going to Europe. I've had back pain for 10 months. Now they actually have an end goal. They want to be better. Sure. They might be 50, 60, 70% better. They're probably not going to be better 100% by the 6 weeks, but can we get them to a point where they're a lot more comfortable on the plane and that they can enjoy their vacation? And then when they come back, they continue with us. So the phone call, everything that we say about, okay, like you said, I don't know what it's going to look like. We have to have our doctor of physical therapy come in and do the evaluation, but we've helped a lot of busy New Yorkers just like you. But it sounds like, you have a tight time frame. It sounds like you're very serious about this right now. It sounds like you're doing your due diligence. You're calling around. You're trying to find the right fit. At the same time, Jimmy, we need to make sure that our new clients are the right fit for us. So I sometimes do a little status thing in there,
and this is where I go. This is where I think PTs go off the rails. Is that like, we do one-on-one care, we do manual therapy, we do this, we have certifications. I flip it to an easy example, which is like your plumber. So imagine you got a phone call on a plumber. Tell me what you're doing. What's the call? It's my kid's college graduation party in 2 weeks, and the basement's flooded. And you're like, we can handle this. I've done it before. The plumber be like, I understand. I'll be over there. Number one, if I'm going to come over there today, you understand it's a premium, right? Like, you can understand that you're getting more, right? But you're like, help me understand, like, what's it clog? I don't know. It's just filled. Can you do this? I unclog basements like nobody else. They wouldn't start talking about the wrenches. They wouldn't start talking about where they went to trade school. Like, imagine that. Imagine the plumber would be like, I went to trade school at Johnson and down the street. And it'd be like, ooh, I don't care, dude. But for some reason in healthcare, it is completely the first 15 things we talk about. I want you to feel dumb talking about your tools. If they ask, you could, well, what kind of size crew are you bringing in? Oh, we have a whole team. Or, it's just me. All I need is me. Or I have the latest. If they ask, then answer. But don't use 5 words when 3 will do. Don't talk about the wrenches. I don't care. Can you get my Jeep fixed by the weekend because I'm going camping? Yes, I can.
People want assurance. That consumers want assurance, so that they want to make sure that whether it's the plumber or the physical therapist or whoever, they want someone that's been there, done that. And so when someone if Jimmy's on the phone, and if you had only done the radio world and not physical therapy, I could say we have a lot of busy professionals just like you. I might even bring up like a previous anonymous case study. I would say like, oh, we recently have been working with another business professional that's also in radio or media, kind of in your age range, and they had, chronic neck pain or sciatica, and they gave the same type of resistance or some objections up front. And now they went from having to call out of work or missing some radio shows here and there or missing live events in person or whatever to being more focused at work and sleeping better and all that. And it all just started with this, this first in-home visit.
Yeah. Don't talk about the how. Don't talk about the how. The how, unless they ask, like don't hide it, but talk about the why. Like why am I coming there? Keep me focused on Europe. Because that's what I'm really buying. I'm buying Europe. Europe, you're a thing to do on my list. You're one of 20 things I've got to do, hopefully. Can you help me do this? Yes. That's why we go back to that grunt test. What do you do? How might it make my life better? Then what do I need to do to get it? Right? What do you do? Physical therapy. Physical therapy is how you make people feel better. People feel better lots of different ways. That's how you make people feel better. What do? I make people move better. Take away, I help them relieve their own back pain. Great, got it. Okay, that's me. What do I need to do? I'll probably need to see it twice a week between now and when you leave for Europe. I'm willing to do that because it's important. Great. What do I need to do? Show up, do what I say, and it's $200 a session, and we have you on your way. I didn't talk about manual therapy. I didn't talk about where I went to school. Stop giving them too much information. Trust me, in 2024, they want to know where you went to school. They're 3 steps ahead of you. If that's important to them. If it's not, why are you bringing it up? You're just giving me 5 words when 3 will do. Don't do it.
There's a quote from Alex Hormozy, and it's sell Maui, but don't sell the flight to Maui.
Yeah, American Airlines doesn't sell cramped freaking seats. They sell Maui.
Even the example of the flight to Maui sounds like a lot of work. It's, from JFK to Maui, it's like 9 hours or whatever. It's from JFK to Honolulu, it's definitely 9 hours because I've done that before. And packing for the trip is a lot of, that's a lot of work to think about. Just sell that final destination.
Right. Yeah. Sell me the hole, not the drill. That's why like before and after, like for personal trainers or people in weight loss, pictures are valuable. It's like, look at that person. She looks like me now, and now look at her. It's harder in PT because we're more movement based, but you can do that, right?
That's a great, you got to have someone sign a social media release, whatever. But I've seen this is not done enough in physical therapy. But all you need for the before and afters is just if it's shoulder range of motion, it's like they were at 90 degrees, right? And then 3 to 6 weeks later, 150 or 180 degrees overhead. Before and after.
Look what a lot of PTs are doing to get a lot of likes on Instagram right now. They're showing exercise videos. That's showing a lot of the how. That'll get a lot of buzz. But do you think people follow through on that? Do you think my lack of access to exercise videos is the reason my shoulder hurts? Dude, we've never had more access to exercise videos. Then how are the same rates of people hurt or losing function? They need a guide. They don't need the answers. They need the tutor. Then stop selling answers, sell guidance. That's what and if someone could be given exercises and be better, they're not even on the phone with you. They did it. Good for them. Fantastic. That's not what you sell. You don't sell degrees. You don't sell exercise. You sell a solution. Stop doing if you're sharing exercise videos, that's fantastic. To get the likes, I get it. But show me an outcome. Where's the outcome? Now, the people who show the exercise and the outcome or talk about it, that's the secret sauce to me, which is showing where I am and where I could go. Every good story is a transformation story. Don't just sell me the middle of a story. That's the bad part. That's the meeting the villain. I don't want to know how cramped or how bad the cookies are in the American Airlines flight. I want to know what it feels like when my ass is in the sand. Sell me ass in the sand, not luggage. And as long as the ass in the sand is valuable enough, I'll go through the luggage in the cramped seat. I understand juice versus squeeze. We all do.
All right. So real quick, I know we're running short on time. How about give me an objection? I want you to say you need to think about it. So I presented you. We do. It's $250. $250.
Yeah. All right. This sounds good. I'll probably I'm going to give them a call, weigh my options, and I'll call you back, I guess.
No. So you say, I want to think about it.
That's what I'm saying. I want to think about it. Maybe I'll call you back. I want to think about it.
Sure. Yeah, Jimmy, absolutely. So that I understand. And a lot of people on this initial phone call need to think about it. You think you need 2 days or 2 weeks to think about it?
Oh, I don't know. Just, I guess, 2 days, probably. I want to get this going.
Okay. So let's see. It's Thursday right now. 2 days would be Saturday. Do you want someone to reach out to you on Saturday or maybe wait until Monday morning?
Probably Monday.
Wait until Monday morning. So you're okay. We'll reach out to you on Monday, touch base with you, whether text message or you tell me, text message, phone, call, or email. What's the best way to follow up with you Monday?
Text is good. I always answer texts.
Okay. So either myself or someone on my team will shoot you a text on Monday just to kind of see where you're at. But again, it's low pressure. We think that you'd be the right fit for us. And I think that we'd be the right fit for you. But again, you're the judge and jury on that. And so we'll touch base on Monday, see where you're at in your information gathering stage and see where you're at with your decision-making process.
So I agree with where you're going. Just, I would say less words. If you were selling Ferraris, you'd be like, you're going to think about it? That's fine. We're going to have the Ferrari here on Monday. We're probably going to sell 2 over the weekend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love the fact that you're in the thinking stage. You're like, okay, when you're ready to make a decision, we're here.
Yeah, Ferrari probably doesn't follow up with people. They're probably just like, yeah, like, where we're at. Like, have a nice life until you're ready to actually pay for a Ferrari.
But all car dealerships will do that. Like, well, this price, okay, that sounds great. Like, you let me know. I'm here. And when you're ready to get started, we're ready to help. And then silence. All right, ready for parting shots? Because I'm opening my milk juice box right now.
Parting shots. This was a little bit of a hodgepodge of, we were going to do multiple books. We only did one book. We mixed in a little bit of sales role play. I think this was fun. This is something that I think more physical therapists need. And if you're a practice out there with 2 or more physical therapists, like, you should absolutely be doing sales role play like this. So one of the therapists is the fake patient. The other therapist is the actual therapist. And the fake patient should say things like, that's too expensive. I need to think about it. I want to use my insurance. I need to speak to my spouse. I don't have the budget for that right now. There's a ton of different objections for you to practice.
I need to think about it. Help me understand, like, where's the hinge point here? Like, what's the thing you might be stuck on? Is there anything I can say that would provide clarity, not to help you make your decision, not to push you to the edge? Anything I can help to provide clarity? If the answer is no, my guess is they're negotiating on price. That's okay. You don't want them anyway. You were going to have to kick and grab them kicking and screaming to get there. Any tips for students prepping for boards, and what are your experiences when you took it? Study, repeat, take practice exams, and study the questions you got wrong. I don't know. This is a reps. I don't know where we're going with the MPTE, but yeah, this is a reps game. Repetition. That's it. My parting shot is, every conversation is a negotiation for information. For the rest of the day, look at it that way, and then DM us or reach out and tell me if I'm wrong. If the rest of the day you didn't see this several times, tell me that I'm wrong. Once I saw it, I can't not see it. It's like analyzing gait. Once you see it, you can't not see it. Every conversation, I don't care if it's a stranger or a loved one, business, personal, every conversation is a negotiation for information. Trying to get someone to understand or do something, or they're trying to get you to understand or do something. Even if there's, how's the weather? I'm trying to kill time. That's a negotiation. It is.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE@CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.